Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You're watching Quests and Chaos. You catch us live every Monday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. We have dialed it back a half an hour to give us a little bit more time to chat. Today, contrary to what I had in the overlay, because I forgot to change it, today we are talking about D&D and neurodiversity, and we will get into what that is and what that entails as we get into this. A few points of order. I do say that all the time. Everything that you see that is 3D printed is from Griffin Co. And we are Vorpal powered. Our video and audio displays, player indicators, digital dice, zoom features on the battle maps are all brought to you by Vorpal Board. It is a lot of fun things. We were talking about this in the chat yesterday because we celebrated my birthday yesterday. So when I woke up, my kids, he had made a treasure map, and they had me kind of go through the entire house to find all the different presents. And the very last present, which he bought with his allowance, which was ridiculous, was this amazing dragon candelabra, which is just fantastic. I just wanted to share that.
If I was Jean Valjean, I'd steal them.
It's amazing. That's my selfish plug for my little 7-year-old who's adorable. But enough of that.
What's his store? Drop the link.
Right?
But let's do some panelist introductions, and then we'll get into today's topics. I'll do it after I'll do after the intros. So Taryn.
Well, hi, my name is Taryn Hackett. You can catch me at, I'm getting better at it, Valrook, right there, spelled like that. And I'm just a general all-around nerd and a creative human, trying to be happy doing nerdy, crafty things. If you want to look at pictures of cats and arty things, you can hit me up on Instagram at Valrook. I'm also the mother of a special needs kid. My little brother is also autistic, and I have an extensive background in some of those things. But yeah, that's who I am.
Well, thank you for being here. Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Kilmer. I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Washington. So I see individual clients. I'm also the Director of Education and Training for Game to Grow, where we support the use of games of all kinds for community, individual, and educational growth. We're most well known for our tabletop role-playing game groups, where we build social skills and confidence. We also have some counseling groups that are about to be rolling out as well. And we run those groups with children, adolescent, and adults. So I have run therapeutic tabletop RPG groups with ages 8 to 86. And I guess as relevant to this topic or this panel today, I also have ADHD.
Well, thank you for coming. And last but not least, Rachel, welcome.
Hello, I'm Rachel Beauregard. You can find me on Instagram at Bad Duck Design. Got some new stuff coming out this week, so pop in there. It'll be fun. I'm, I guess, also an all-around geek, tabletopper, gamer, designer, fiber artist, and I have been working on myself kind of independently in and out of different therapists and informational resources through my whole life. Was diagnosed with ADHD at age 30. Recently, more specifically, complex PTSD, which we can talk more about in a bit. But yeah, I've kind of been hyper fixating on this stuff and doing research into various aspects of mental health and and my own wellness for about 25 years. So just here to share aspects that I find helpful that are maybe less medical, less clinical, to help people get more of a, every person understanding.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Rachel. So, like everyone has been talking about, we're gonna navigate a hard topic, a challenging topic. Some that are near and dear to our hearts. Some we're very sensitive about, and we might fight you. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'd probably fight you. But I myself have some OCD, some ADHD, but mostly I have Asperger's. And I come from a completely different background, and we'll get into a lot of these details in a bit. Coming from a really, I'm an 80s brat, right? I turned 39 today. So, like, there were no stamps or labels or really anything in the 80s or early 90s. In the early 90s, it was just ADD. And trying
That's for boys.
Exactly. There's so many things. Like, we can talk for hours today about this. But then I joined, then I was an athlete, and then I joined the military. So, like, that doesn't exist, right? What are you talking about? Just take these pills, right? So we're going to navigate all of this. We're going to talk about some of our challenges and struggles. We're going to take all of your questions as well. At any point, I might be the first person to do a T for terms, right? Terminology. So at any point, if someone drops an acronym or a term that you're not completely familiar with, drop a T in the chat, and I'll pause the conversation at a good moment and then try to, if you can drop a T and then say what the acronym was, so then I can remember, that would be helpful. And I will try to do it myself as well. And if you have any questions, tag DM Chris Solo in the chat, and I will field them. I'll add them to the list, and then when we get to a good moment, we'll go ahead and field those questions. But my first question to all of you is, what is the most impactful thing that you've seen, either with yourself or that you've witnessed, where someone with one of these challenges has grown? Like something that they like public speaking for me. Believe it or not, I'm still terrified 3 years in every time before this show. I put on my pretend DM hat, and then I'm like, DM Chris Solo, and you don't see my feet. My feet are moving all over. I'm a duck in the water right now. So that's the first question, I guess. So what is the most impactful moment or scenario that you've seen, either with yourself or with someone else, where they had these challenges pre-tabletop, and then tabletop kind of helped them grow from that?
I can go first because I was like kind of prepared for this kind of question, because I got blindsided by it last night. And last time we shared about clients, but this time I will share about myself. So like I mentioned, I have ADHD. I have spent a lot of my life being told that I am a lot and too much and too loud. I've had, and sometimes I'm a lot and I can be really loud. I have a hard time managing my volume all the time. And I've had, really well-meaning people who love me very much. Like, I will run up to them when I was a kid, especially. I'd run up to them and I'd be really excited about something, and they'd ask me if I'd taken the medication that day, right? Because I'm sure from their eyes, I was like really dysregulated and super hyper, and probably through like 4 levels higher than what was reasonable for like 8 a.m. But I also remember that really hurt, because it felt like I couldn't be myself. Like, I wasn't acceptable unless I was medicated. And that was really, really
the fact
hard.
that you remember that, sorry, like I feel like there's going to be a lot of like, this was said to me when I was very, very small. And like the fact that you remember it shows how impactful it is.
Yeah. And I was really lucky. I had and still have a really loving, supportive family. And I think sometimes those kinds of statements, right, are taken out of context by our brains, because I know for this particular one, the person who said it loved me and really cared about me and was probably having a really challenging morning. But me as a kid, all I heard was, you're not okay, or you're not acceptable without the medication. And so it's important for me to, especially as an adult, like, be able to put that context around it. But it can be challenging. And something that has been really cool in D&D is I recently started playing a Thunder Domain cleric who's kind of impulsive and shoots a lot of lightning everywhere, and is really excitable and kind of loud and not always great at reading social cues, but is very impactful. And it's been really, really fun in those games to like just lean into the ADHD. Like, instead of,
it's like giving yourself permission.
Yeah. And obviously
It's in my stats.
It's yeah. Well, and I will say, like, I'm obviously like I'm playing with a group, and I'm playing with a group that I know like this character fits really well with. Like we're silly and fun, and we can get excitable. Like that's the purpose of this game. This isn't like a super serious dungeon crawl. This is very much like excitable, and impulsive behavior is totally fine and okay. But it's been really fun to just, especially because I tend to play this game later in the evenings when like I don't have any regulation left. It's really fun to just get to everything explodes with lightning. And now I've made my spiritual weapon is a tiny like version of my warhammer. So it's this like whack-a-mole mallet, and it's like beating the crap out of people. And I get really excited, and people probably still have to turn the volume down because I will get really loud. But that's just been really nice. It's been this fun kind of escape, like where I don't have to think about regulating myself quite as much.
Yeah.
And obviously fit is important, but it's just been nice. It's been nice to just not mask for a minute.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That masking though. Absolutely. So I have a couple, but like I'll go ahead and just do the same thing. For me, I was severely bullied from like day one. I'm gonna try not to cry. Like I was always the weird kid. I was way too energetic. I was way too quirky.
I mean,
right?
Look at this corner of the screen.
Right?
I think we would have been friends in high school.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was way too quirky. I was into nerdy things. I preferred talking to adults because kids were weird to me.
Yeah.
There was lots of stuff like that I had, and so I mean, I was a friggin' target. So day one in daycare and like first day of school, I remember walking in, and immediately one of these kids was like, "You're weird. We don't like you." Like, and I turned around and started crying, and my mom thought I was crying because she was leaving me at my first day of school. And I was like, nope, I thought I was going to make friends. People are evil. And so like this just continued on top of like all of my other issues that I didn't know I had. And I was in a small community growing up. So, you know, a school of like 100 people, elementary, junior high, and high school, and nobody likes you. Was really rough. And so a lot of that, like, it just started compounding, and eventually I just started shoving myself back in of like, okay, don't be loud, don't talk about stuff you like, you got keep yourself here, like don't fidget with stuff, that's bad, STEM is bad, it's a nervous habit and you should not do that. So instead you just sit here kind of like freaked out the whole time. And so for me, like I ultimately ended up like having a really hard time making new friends. I don't know how to open up, and I've been getting so much better lately, and it's been great. But about 3 years ago, I was in a hole and realized like all the people that had been my friends that were gone. And so I kind of pushed myself, like I'd wanted to play D&D again, and I put myself in the DM chair, and like, you know, immediately I'm like panicking on the verge of going into like an anxiety attack, like seizing up, like on the verge, I could feel it. And immediately like one of these people that was like kind of a work friend was like kind of touched me on the arm and was like, "Hey man, you ready? Like we're really excited." And they were just so positive back to me and like gave me notes on like everything they liked about me DMing, and like I could have this big energy describing stuff, and like at first like super small, but by the end of it, like I felt so free for the first time in such a long time. See, it happened. Dang it.
Yeah.
I don't actually have emotions. Don't let anybody tell you I have emotions.
We will not tell your secret.
Thank you. But it was so freeing that I like started pulling like pieces of myself out, and it was just so nice to start feeling like me again for the first time in years. It's just that being able to be you at the table is just like absolutely priceless.
Mm-hmm. I would say like because I was like diagnosed so late, like because there's a lot that goes into living day-to-day life with ADHD that people like, you know, neurotypicals or people just, you know, you wouldn't have a reason to know, I guess, because it's not talked about. But like there were so many things I was bad at that I just chalked up to being a bad adult. Like I am always late. Like I can't remember things. Like I've got no object permanence. Like I was just like, why can't I loop or keep track of things? When I remember being in like second grade and they start throwing those like those word problems at you that aren't really like, they're nothing to do with math. They're just tricks.
There
So
was a
they're
dog
like,
that ran a
okay.
mile that way, and
Yeah,
you
exactly.
need to know how fast he was going at 10 a.m. that morning. Not now, though. That other part,
Exactly. So that like, and that's a big thing with D&D is here's a list of stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was in second grade, they started saying this type of stuff. Like, okay, so you've got this many things over here, and Johnny has like, 20 bottles of soap. And so, like, and as a child, like in second grade, I have no idea how old you are anymore. Like, time is a blur. I remember nothing. But I just remember all of a sudden, like, just getting that feeling of being overwhelmed because I'm just being handed all this information. And because I don't know why I'm being told it, I don't know what to keep track of because my brain can't do like, okay, this is what I need you to pick up from the store. If it's like, when you watch Crit Roll doing like their broken the telephone game, that's something that I could kind of do because if there's a story, I can make it from beginning to end. But when you're just listing off stuff, like as a child, I just remember that terror and going into like an anxiety attack because I didn't know why I couldn't, like all of a sudden I felt so confused, especially being a gifted child. So like all of a sudden I just didn't understand and that made me terrified.
Yeah.
And being diagnosed later in life, it just made me kind of go, it is what it is. Like my first long-term character was a fighter. Do you know how much, like each turn I'm like, okay, like I didn't know. I just picked like the class with like the most written down stuff. And I played that character for years. And so I had a lot of items written down. And I just had to accept like, listen guys, I'm not stupid and I'm not a bad player. I just don't have short-term memory to remember things like, numbers that are not connected to anything. So you're going to have to be patient with me and not treat me like, I don't know what I'm doing because I have to look at things that are written down. I'm going to do my best to keep things documented, but I'm going to ask my group for the patience to know, like, and, I don't want to get mad feeling that I'm being like DM-splained at by another player. So I have to say, like, listen, I know what I'm doing. If I have a question, I'm going to ask the DM. And, these are my needs. And also being very clear on things like if you can't meet these needs, you're going to see me get kind of frustrated because I'm already doing my best to be here. Yeah. And, I need you to meet me halfway because I'm doing my best. You got to do at least a modicum of effort. So it kind of got me to that place of knowing I have to write stuff down. And with D&D, it's like, this is something you want to do. So it kind of really got me into being more organized in general, I think.
Yeah.
Just because like I have to accept what I cannot remember.
Yeah, that's why I homebrew, because it's easier for me to make it up or something that I've created than reading something that someone else has done. It's hard for me to remember a lot of things. I mean, some of that is all the things, and some of it's PTSD from being in Iraq and all that other nonsense. But, and yeah,
Oh yeah, see, it's not so easy, is it?
Stop it. So,
I see you masking your trauma with humor.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I literally live through sarcasm.
Same.
I'm just seeing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the second Jumanji movie, when he's just like, don't cry, and he's trying to be all
That's
tough.
the first one.
That was the first. Well, it's technically the second one.
It's hot. Oh, you mean, yeah, okay.
There is a Robin Williams one way back.
Are we gonna fight? Are we fighting?
It's too early. Make it
but yeah, so I've also super late. I was probably 32, 33 when I kind of nailed it down, and it was interesting because the way that I realized that there was possibly something wrong with me is because I watched the Parenthood TV show. Has anyone seen that?
I've seen a
heard
little
about it.
tiny bit of it.
The little boy Max has Asperger's. And it was, I think, it might have been the end of the season. I can't remember, but it was several episodes in. He was always like very meticulous about things and very just in a certain way. And if things didn't go his way, he would blow up and all these things. And we was, watching it with my wife, and I was like, God, that feels like familiar. And then at the end of it, we find out that he has Asperger's, and I was just like, wow. And then I started to inquire, and then I finally got properly, diagnosed or whatever.
Representation is important.
Yes, but 30 years of my life thinking that I was dumb, I was, all these other derogatory words that people would call you, or why can't you do this and why can't you do that, especially in the military and all these other things. And I don't have the cool Asperger's where I can like solve math problems instantly or put a puzzle together backwards, upside down. Like I don't have that, but I have the one where
like a savant,
right?
thing.
I have the one where I can have an entire world in my head and literally instantly like create different things, which obviously works here in this world. But that was the first aha moment, and then didn't really know what to do with it. Oh, cool. Now I have this label. Now I can look up, how to navigate things, but I still felt outside. I still didn't feel like I was, at home. And then I found D&D again, because I hadn't played for 20 years. Last time I played, it was math, and I didn't like math, so it kind of worked, but it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
But, then I found it, and then we did a couple episodes, because first time I ever DM'd was for these shows. So, out there literally freaking out, like, oh my God. Hi, I'm Chris Solo. I'm really uncomfortable. Those videos are on YouTube, by the way, and they're terrible. But
I
it's...
have watched them.
But, you go back and you watch it, and you can look at that video and then you look at these videos and see how much I've changed just in this world. I'm still awkward as shit outside in the real world and don't navigate, social interactions and miscues all the time. I have a few handlers here in Fabled 42 who'll be like, hey, Solo, that thing that you said? I'm like, oh, shit. And then, I have to like sidetrack a little bit and go back and apologize because I said something insensitive or whatever. And I do it often, but I'm aware of it, and a lot of times I catch it before it happens. And that's part of it, right? So like this process has been going on for a while, and just now like scratching the surface of feeling normal. And now I actually don't feel normal. I feel like a superhero, but it's very comforting to be surrounded by just again, I know I got extremely lucky because there's a lot of really shitty D&D groups out there, like really, really shitty ones. They're prejudiced and racist and sexist and all the other ists that I can think of. And I know I got super lucky with the group that I had. So it's been a very awesome journey. And it's like, look at where we are right now, where we're sitting here talking about this and hopefully helping someone or helping change someone's perspectives and what have you. So, which does lead me to like another question is, what are some tricks to help navigate these things? Like, I know we've talked about Post-it notes. I have Excel spreadsheets for days. I literally have... I don't even know if I could DM again with just a regular screen and like a notebook. Because I have 5 monitors with like 30 tabs each. And some windows I have multiple windows.
It's like my brain.
Exactly. And
Busy brain.
But that's how my brain works, especially for realms or wizards, right? Like we've talked about this over and over again. Like we're starting to do something, I have a train of thought. Instantly I'm like, oh look, we're gonna add a white dragonborn right now. All of a sudden she has all this lore and I'm just blah, 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 and my brain is just going a mile a minute and I'm trying to type and catch up while someone's role playing back. And that's how my brain operates now, and this is how I work now. I don't know how I'm going to do a live show again where I don't have any of these things, and I'm just going to be like, I'm on my own, guys. Like, here we are.
Just keels
like a
over.
scribe.
I need Jarvis, I think, is what I need.
That would be amazing.
It would be. Taryn, you want to?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it depends. Like I have a couple of players. They have their own things going, and so I help them. And one of them, ADD. You know, like I have to keep him. I also like to keep him. I like to interact with him too, though, like because he's really great with RP, and so in one of the ways that I have gotten him to help stay focused is I just I help get him involved in a lot of things. So I bounce back and forth a lot with him. Is like especially if somebody's shopping, so somebody's doing their thing over here, but I'm like, okay, what are you doing? So then we'll go back and forth. I have another. She's coping with some other mental health issues, and she feels very disassociated from herself. And so what she's done is pour a lot of this into this character, who she identifies very much with this character. And so like just validating that for her and giving her the opportunity to act through this character. So I use RP a lot to let them just fulfill what they're missing, what they're needing, what they're wanting to do. And in that, it's been really great for her in particular. For me as a DM, tools for me that help is just lists to the max because I have a horrible memory. Being able to record things helps a lot because I can go back and say, wait, what did I say about this one thing there? I've started making bullet points for myself when I DM because it is really easy for me to go on a tangent. So I can flash back over and go, aha, that's what I was supposed to be doing. We're good. We got this. But yeah, I think those have been the best tools for me, is just also knowing my players, like them coming to me for one, but me also asking them. I know them too, so that helps, but asking them like, what are you trying to do? What do you want? And then placing them, because I do have 3 groups. We're not playing right now. But I'm placing them in groups where the chemistry is there. So as a DM, knowing they play really well off of each other. Like these people are going to get bogged down with some of like dealing with high energy or like whatever. So I put them in a smaller group with other people that are high energy too. And in that high energy group also, because I have my husband is trying to open up more as well, because he's very cloistered. He wants to open up more, and he wants to
good word.
He wants to be more energetic. So I was like, okay, well then I have a party for you, and you can be all the ridiculous and do, just be you. So placement and knowing that as well. Like I'm not going to put 2 people together that clearly, even if they're can get along in a social situation, like they're not going to play well together. So I'm just going to be like, hey, like let's put you over here, let's go over here, because you guys are going to be gold. Like, so that's a lot of what I do when I deal with it.
I really like that, Taryn, and something that you brought up, and I think we all kind of touched on it in our stories, is this idea of kind of fit. Fit is really, really important. When we're thinking about neurodiversity, if we're thinking about like autism, or thinking about ADHD or other neurodevelopmental disorders, it's not that like you're just fundamentally broken and there's something wrong with you and you have to like fix yourself to be able to interact with the world, right? And if we think about the way that we think about fit in other ways, it makes it clear how ridiculous this is, right? We think about what career you should go into based on your aptitude and your interests. We don't say like, oh, well, you're 6 and you have blue eyes and brown hair, so you're definitely going to be an engineer. We don't do that. We say, what are you interested in? What do you have aptitude in? What is consistent with your values? That things are important with you. If somebody is, is in undergrad and they think they want to be a doctor and they hate all their pre-med classes, we don't say, oh, well, it's because you're an idiot. We go like, oh, okay, this isn't working. What are other career paths that maybe you haven't explored that might be a better fit for you, right? And it doesn't mean that if you find the thing that is a good fit for you, you don't have to work hard at all, right? You still have to work hard. You still have to figure out what works for you. You still have to bring in your own work to the table. But finding that fit can be really important. And I think that for a lot of neurodiverse individuals, for a lot of individuals, period. D&D can be a great fit in part because of like how different it can look, right? We've got at its very core, D&D is about being able to get together with other people and tell a story. And we are social creatures. At our core, we are social creatures. And this is a great way to connect. And it's a great way to connect in ways that kind of can scaffold some of our difficulties, as well as provide extra challenge for our strengths.
It's funny when you were saying about like, just because something fits, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna have to work for it. It just made me think like, you can find like your size and like your favorite shoes in your size, but you're still gonna have to spend time breaking them in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's gonna give you blisters.
Yeah, a little bit.
This all does, it navigates into one of our first questions, which is as someone who does not have a diagnosis but is surrounded by loved ones that do, it can be hard for me to understand what they are experiencing and going through. What are some respectful ways that I can let them know this without making it about myself?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways, if you want to make sure that you are being the most supportive person you can without putting any extra emotional labor or emotional work on the other person, one of the things that you can do is do some of your own research, right? And that could be a really easy. That could be really easy.
Read a book.
Read a book. Watch other creators. Don't look at Autism Speaks. They're the worst. But Reddit can be great. Now like the internet can be a really confusing place, right? Like, so I mentioned Autism Speaks is not a super great organization by the autism community, for the autism community, is by people who are surrounded by the autism community, and there are some problems. Yeah. But they have great marketing, and so they can look kind of confusing. Yeah. But finding kind of creators or experts who also have that lived experience can be really helpful. For example, in terms of ADHD, How to ADHD is a YouTube channel. It is awesome. The creator has ADHD. She does not have like a specific degree in mental health, but has done a ton of research and does a lot of talking about her lived experience, as well as bringing in other experts and kind of pulling in some scientific articles. And she's got some great quick YouTube videos about like how to support someone who has ADHD. So having those kinds of doing your own research and then coming in and saying like, hey, I learned that it can be really helpful for some people with ADHD to have a fidget toy. Would it be helpful for you to have a fidget toy at the table? Right? Like, so coming in with some of those ideas or those solutions, and not saying I'm going to do this for you, but like, hey, I care about you. And so I did some research, and I don't know if this research is consistent with your lived experience. Is it? Would this be helpful?
Yeah. I mean, so I worked at a memory care place for a very short time because that was a lot. You can only change so many adult diapers, and like it, but it was like, it's just very, very, it was very challenging. But the best thing that I'm going to steal from one of the quotes that was on all the walls, because these are all Alzheimer or memory, adults who just have issues, and they're very challenging to say the least. But there's a sign that's all over the place saying that the residents are not giving you a hard time; they're having a hard time, and that was like a mantra that you can really translate to this as well. Like if you have inklings or understandings and you see one of your players fidgeting and maybe it bugs you, get over it. Like, and understand that that's other people's ways of navigating it. And for me, it comes off a little abrasive probably when I say get over it, but that's kind of where I am right now because it's like trying to create that inclusive, I can't even say the word.
Inclusivity?
There you go. I used to stutter when I was younger too. So certain words I just stop and I'm like, no, I'm not going to try. But to create that, like, some people just need that jolt sometimes, and maybe that's not the right way. I know when Elizabeth was talking, about how sometimes, her volume changes and she's a little intense sometimes. I'm very intense sometimes. And any of my producers who are probably watching right now understand that. when I have a very certain directive or a certain thing in my head of how I want things to run, like I'm hard to work with, and I understand that. And which is why I joke, I do have a couple people that I confide in, especially like during a meeting. They kind of say, "Hey, Solo, you're peaking," or, they gave me some, key words, and I'm like, then I realize that I need to like rein it back for a second and then
that's
balance
so
out.
important, right?
Yep.
And it's also helpful, right? Being able to separate out. Like when I was a kid and I had someone tell me like, "Oh, have you taken your meds yet?" when I was really excited, like that was really problematic because I wasn't able to separate out the behavior that they didn't like from me as a person, right?
Yep.
So now as an adult, there are, not every random human being on the internet gets this from me, but like there are trusted individuals where like if my husband says, "Hey, you're being really loud," I don't think that he's rejecting me as a person. I know that like me being really loud is bothering him, right? And it's okay. So understanding like what are the behaviors that I engage in that are probably annoying,
Yeah.
right? Versus like
And
me
to-
as a person.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to validate something Chris said. In terms of like coming off abrasive, I can relate a lot to like what you said, Taryn. Like when you're like a weird kid and you do seek out adults and you're always seeking out somebody to just confirm that, you're lovable. You are inherently deserving of love, you weird little child, knowing all your stats about birds and stuff.
Dinosaurs.
And so, and exactly, you get your hyperfixations, and that people don't realize how long that can continue. So, like, I'm at a point now where, like, some of the worst things that could happen to me as a person have already happened. I've had kind of one of the worst years of my life this year, but being abrasive to me is just like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of like every day, like doing everything I can, especially when you're deemed like high functioning, which just means you are capable of participating in capitalism in a way that it does not interfere like with my day-to-day life. Like that's
Yes.
high functioning to me, is like, you have a problem, but I don't have to worry about it. It's not my problem. But when I was I was at a conference. Sorry. I was at a conference with I'm not gonna call people out, but I was on a medical leave for like stress and stuff. I don't think I was diagnosed ADHD yet, but I had like just come back from my leave, and I live in Toronto, Canada, and we had like this 3-day conference in Ottawa, which is a 5-hour train ride. Still in the province though, but like I was away from Renee for the first time, like in our relationship for like a long time. I was really upset, and so I was clinging very much with this this individual who I made friends with in Slack, and she passed, but they had a service dog, but it's a Chihuahua, and so people, being people, they want to interact with a dog because it's not common that you see like a legitimate service dog that's a Chihuahua. But she was lovely, and she was there for like anxiety stuff. And we were just walking between like lecture halls or something, and somebody came up to them and said, "Oh, your dog's really cute." And they're like, "Thank you. That's fine." And they've got the service animal vest, and they said, I can't remember, something else was said, but they said something about, well, why, like, what kind of service, like, what is your illness that this dog, and they didn't mean it in a malicious way.
Sure.
But they just, like, I was still very, like, dealing with my stuff at the time. So I watched this, and at the time I was like, oh my God. But what they said to him was, you know what? That's really like me asking you how your last colonoscopy went. And the guy was just like, and I was like, and at the time I like, it comes off abrasive.
Yeah.
But
because it's a trigger. Because we've heard it 1,000 times. Like
and it's
like
also none of
the
your
pills
business,
moment. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that's
But just leave me alone.
I mean, it can be as simple as like, dealing with depression and stuff. Like, I'm tired a lot. I am.
Irritable.
Yeah.
And so like, and I work in a place where you're supposed to dress nice and you're supposed to have your full face makeup and look real cute. I don't do it. I have orange hair. Watch me though. But it's like, I get real sick of being like, are you tired? You look tired. Are you sure you're getting enough sleep, or are you sick?
I'm just ugly.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put on concealer so you can see the dark circles under my eyes. It's probably because I stayed up until 3 o'clock last night questioning my existence. Thank you.
Right?
But eventually I'm just like, yep, just tired every day. Like, and so like I've done a really good job of not snapping, but it's just like that simple question, like every day is just like.
Well, it's hard, and especially for you all. Like,
I'm not okay.
how many times has a man told you to smile?
Oh my God! Let's not.
Now, that's a whole can of worms. I understand, but it's
a really good point.
It is.
I guess that's a really good point, right? Like, it's not just you're not just dealing with microaggressions around, like, I think when we're talking about like coming off as abrasive, if you're coming off as abrasive because you're dealing with someone's microaggressions, like I don't think that's not a neurotypical versus neurodiverse thing. That's just a human thing. You might have a harder time kind of managing your emotional response to that, but it is very, very normal and very okay to not want to be nice to someone who's being mean to you, even if they're not being mean to you on purpose.
Ignorance is not an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. I bet you someone who doesn't know and they do that and we snap at them, they're going to remember the next time they make a dumb comment. Like, that's my mentality, and maybe that's not okay.
Immediately just dismiss you as that bitch.
And I'm okay with that. I feel better. I feel okay. Like,
usually, see, that's a win-win for me. If they dismiss me as that, they're not talking to me anymore anyways, in which case I'm like, less stress.
Yeah, exactly.
We are going to put a pin in this real quick. We're going to take a very quick 5-minute break. So go ahead and throw some more questions in the chat, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.